Financial Planner. Follow us on YouTube.
Saudi Arabia pivots towards Russia and away from the U.S. Now, before I get started, I just want to make an announcement. I uploaded an interview with Charles Hugh Smith, so all you need to do is go over to the X22 Report Spotlight YouTube channel, and you'll find the video there. Or you can come over to the x22report.com site or newssentinel.com. Scroll down, look over to your right-hand side, you'll see the video there, and you can play it right on the site. Or you can go to Steemit, and that is steemit.com/@X22Report. The video is also on Steemit, and you can play it right on the site. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, out in Spain, we can see that Catalonia, they're asking for their independence, and the Prime Minister said there will be no Catalonian independence at all. And it looks like what they're trying to do right now is they're trying to stop this whole thing from happening. And it looks like the Spanish court is going to be blocking the Catalan parliament from declaring independence. And it looks like they're trying to do this. Now, this might kick off a civil war. And we can see that those individuals who want independence, they're going to get angry. We're going to see protests. We're going to see riots. I think the Spanish government needs to take a step back and reevaluate this, or they will end up in a civil war, and this will be a complete and utter disaster. Now, something very interesting happened with Russia and Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia now is pivoting away from the United States, and this is official right now because Putin met with the King of Saudi Arabia. This is the first state visit to Russia by a reigning Saudi monarch, and they have launched a new level of relations between the countries, and they agreed on billions in new energy-focused deals. The two countries launched a joint energy investment fund worth $1 billion, which could include investments in natural gas projects and petrochemical plants. Now, along with this deal, they're also talking about a Russian direct investment fund and gas processing. And we can see that on top of this, they're also looking to purchase the Russian S-400 surface-to-air missiles. So the military, the gas industry is now working with Russia. This is the slow pivot away from the United States, and we're seeing many countries do this at this time. And how much do you want to bet they're going to be dealing outside of the dollar? They're going to be either dealing in the yuan or the ruble. And it will not include the dollar whatsoever. And if Saudi Arabia does this, you can bet there's going to be another country that does this, and so on. So far, Qatar already is dealing with Iran, China, and Russia. We can see that other countries are then going to join in, probably Jordan next, and so on and so forth. So this is the big pivot. It starts out slow, starts out small, started out them just talking, and here they are making a deal now. And we can see that this is being pushed. China, Russia, they're going around the world making bilateral trade agreements, bringing everyone into the fold, into the Belt and Road, and the United States is standing on the outside looking in. And we can see there's going to be a lot more countries right now that are looking to deal outside of the dollar. And as they keep doing this, these sanctions, the power of the dollar is going to decrease every single time. Now, it doesn't happen overnight. This happens over a period of time. And if we look back when we first started reporting on this and how China is building up their infrastructure, building up their markets, creating a payment system, making sure that they can get the yuan included in the SDR, this is all the central bankers driving all of this because they know the dollar system is dying. There's just too much debt out there. There's nothing they can do. The countries are in too much debt. Even if they put more austerity on a lot of these countries, the countries are just going to implode on themselves. And the only way these countries can stay afloat right now is with more debt. And we can see that all these countries are having a problem. We have a huge amount of debt which can never be paid back. So what they do is they start creating a new system. Now, this might include cryptocurrency. The SDRs might be traded amongst the countries. But what they do is they mimic everything someplace else. They don't care what country it is. They have no allegiance whatsoever to any country. Their allegiance is to themselves. As long as they have the power of creation of currency, they can control everything in the world. And they know this. This is why we've been seeing the slow buildup in China, because this is what they're choosing. They're choosing this area. This is why we've been seeing the slow transfer of countries using the ruble, the yuan, and not using the dollar. So things are slowly moving in this direction. We see that there are new rules of engagement for Afghanistan. U.S. troops can now call fire in support of Afghan forces, and we see that things are dramatically changing in this area. In North Korea, everyone is screaming war. Everyone's saying war is coming. North Korea is threatening war, and of course Trump is basically retaliating and saying, yes, watch what you're doing here. But what we see here is there's no real clear signs that the country is actually preparing for a conflict. Now, North Korea reportedly relocated fighters and some anti-aircraft units to the country's east coast. But beyond that, they've done nothing. There's no real evidence the country is anticipating a war. They have a couple of posters up around North Korea, banners. The banners are about defeating America and achieving final victory. But if they're really screaming and saying this is an act of war, they've done nothing. The only major initiative was mobilizing residents to participate in mass rallies. That is it. So all this talk about them getting ready for war, it's not happening. What they want to do is they want to develop their missile systems. They want to develop their nuclear technology so the United States cannot invade North Korea. We see that Trump is out there and he's saying that he's planning to withdraw from the Iran nuclear deal. Now, Russia is saying that these are rumors. We haven't seen any facts as of yet. And we have to remember, why was there a nuclear deal in Iran? Well, it made sure that Iran never developed a nuclear weapon, because we have to remember that going back in time, the plan was to go into all the Middle Eastern countries, have regime change, go into Syria, have regime change, and the last country was Iran. If they developed a nuclear weapon, they wouldn't be able to invade. If you look at what they've done, those countries that don't have nuclear weapons, those are the countries the United States, the cabal, have gone into. And if Iran developed a nuclear weapon, they would have gone into that country. So they made this deal. It made it sound really great. Oh, we'll give you the sanction money as long as you don't develop a nuclear weapon. On the surface, it sounds great. But their plan, eventually, because the Islamic State, think about it, the Islamic State was winning. They were gaining ground. This was the paid mercenaries from the United States, and they were getting ready to go into Damascus. I mean, they were that close of defeating Assad. Assad was floundering, and then he invited Russia in, and things started to change. Because they made the deal with Iran, they thought they had Syria, the next step was Iran. And we can see right now things are radically changing. All the plans they had, well, they're starting to fizzle away, and things are starting to, fall apart. And Syria right now is controlled by Assad and Russia. United States, there is no control anymore. The paid mercenaries, the Islamic State, they don't have control. But we can see that the site intelligence, the Islamic State, they have tripled down on its claim that the Las Vegas shooter, Stephen Paddock, was both a convert to Islam and operating on the behalf of the Islamic State. Now, we know that site intelligence is a Mossad operation. This is part of their intelligence apparatus. The Islamic State was created by the United States, by Israel, by the coalition forces to be used in these areas, and they're trying to convince it. And there's many different agendas going on with this shooting. And those that are trying to push the Islamic State agenda, they're pushing very, very hard. But with all of this, we always know that the intelligence agencies always have their hands in this. Now, what we're seeing right now is that the Las Vegas shooter, there are many different irregularities in the photo of where he shot himself. And I mentioned this before in another report, and this time I put the photo on the X22 report. You can also see it on YouTube. And you see him laying there, and there's a weapon there, which I said was over his foot. How did this happen? And there's other things in the room. I mean, it looks like it's completely staged. And when you look at this, you scratch your head and you say, this doesn't make sense. Now, the other thing is that there are individuals out there doing a lot of research, and Mike Tote is out there saying that, things really don't make sense here. And when they look into Stephen Paddock and they look into his planes and the two planes that he has, something is very strange about it. The tail number of one of those planes is N5343M, a Cirrus SR-20. You can see that this was owned by Paddock by going to the website flightaware.com. But Paddock doesn't own the plane anymore. It was grounded 3 years ago, and it's now in the hands of none other than Volant LLC. And there's little information on this company. However, Volant Associates is none other than the Department of Defense contractor, meaning Paddock's plane has been in the hands of the United States government for the past 3 years and grounded since, which is very interesting. Now, the registration of the Cirrus SR-20 is listed as active, even though it hasn't been flown in 3 years. Now, the FAA, they should have the same information, but they don't. Their website shows that a different aircraft, a Cessna 152, maintains that tail number, and it was last registered to a person in San Diego. The FAA is a government agency, and it appears that it has scrubbed the plane's information. Why was this done? Now, a lot of this information and everything that we're seeing, this all really doesn't make sense. And there's a lot of pieces to the puzzle that are starting to form, showing that most likely he might have had connections to the intelligence agencies, that he might have been a patsy, that he might have been working with them, not knowing that this was going to go down in this fashion. This is how they work with these individuals. Now, Julian Assange is out there, and he's saying that almost all terror plots are created by the FBI as part of its business model. And we have to remember, he's part of WikiLeaks. He's dumped all the emails. He basically finds out all this information and puts it out into the public arena. And of course, the intelligence agencies, the governments, they don't like this. And we know that the intelligence agencies, they're behind a lot of this. This is why they show up to the scene very, very quickly. This is why they take control of the scene, so they can basically control the situation as it unravels, and they keep the local individuals back from what's really happening. So they really don't see what's happening. They're just told what is happening. And once again, when we look at everything that's been going on around the country, around the world, there's a lot of inconsistencies with these type of these events. And many people are pointing it out, just like people pointing out that there were multiple shooters. Police were even saying there were multiple shooters on the police scanner. I mean, it goes on and on and on, and a lot of things don't make sense. Remember, the concert was very loud. How did you hear the gunfire so clearly as they were playing? Something doesn't make sense. And again, it was a very far distance to have the stamina to fire this weapon and to actually kill the number of people. Very, very difficult. But we can see that the corporate media is continually going on with this story. There's no investigation whatsoever, and there are people that are on the ground who are, amateur investigators. They're looking into all these things and questioning all these different things, and why is this happening? Now, once again, I believe we're going to see another big event. I don't think this one went the way they thought it was going to go, and this is why the corporate media is trying to figure out what is the real agenda here, and they can't figure out why this person did this. I think a lot more was planned, but things went south very quickly. I don't know if people in the hotel figured out what was going on, and things didn't work out the way they thought. So I think the cabal most likely is going to be planning another event, because we're getting to the point where they're losing control of mostly everything right now, and they're just trying to continue on with the Russian collusion. They're trying to continue on with North Korea. Syria right now is a lost cause unless they do something major. So I think they're getting ready for something big for North Korea, because if they don't, the EU, China, Russia, Tillerson, they're going to stamp out a peace deal. And once that is done, it is game over for the cabal, and it looks like they're running out of time.